In 1945, as Allied forces liberated Europe, the story we've been told is one of heroes freeing a continent from tyranny. But a British historian named Anthony Beevor spent years researching the Soviet military archives that were finally opened after the Cold War. What he found, documented in his book The Fall of Berlin, 1945, should fundamentally change how we view the end of World War II. As the Soviet Red Army swept into Germany, they unleashed a wave of violence that is almost impossible to comprehend. An estimated 2 million German women were violated during the occupation of Berlin and Eastern Germany. 2 million. We know these numbers are exaggerated because of the meticulous records kept by German hospitals and even the Soviet military itself. Berlin hospital records from 1945 to 1946 show over 100,000 abortion procedures were performed. 100,000 in a single city in just 12 months. But here is the part that makes this a war crime at the highest level of command. The Allied Supreme Command knew it was happening. Staff at General Eisenhower's headquarters documented a flood of complaints from German civilians, from Red Cross workers, and even from disturbed Soviet officers who were horrified by what they were witnessing. These reports made their way to the highest levels of Allied command in the West, and the response was silence. No orders were issued to stop it. No discipline was enforced. No investigations were launched. It was treated as an acceptable, if unpleasant, consequence of victory, and it wasn't just German women. As Soviet forces moved through Poland, Hungary, and Yugoslavia countries, they were supposedly liberating soldiers targeted the women there, too. Tens of thousands of Polish women, Yugoslav women who had fought as partisans alongside the Soviets. The psychological message was the same one used by the Romans: we won. You belong to us now, all of you. Meanwhile, in Western Europe, another form of public violation was unfolding, this time perpetrated not by soldiers, but by civilians. In France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, women who were merely accused of fraternizing with German occupiers were dragged into town squares by their own neighbors. Their heads were shaved, their clothes were torn from their bodies. They were paraded through the streets while crowds of men, women, and children spat on them and jeered. Look at the photographs from that time, look at the faces in the crowds. These are not soldiers hardened by battle. They are shopkeepers, teachers, and mothers, all participating in a ritual of public humiliation. The message, echoing down from Rome, from Nanking, from Berlin, was brutally clear: a woman's body, a territorial marker, and violating it is a way of declaring ownership and punishing betrayal. This chapter of history complicates the clean narrative of liberators and monsters, of heroes and villains. So, for decades, it was buried. Soviet archives remained sealed. Western historians focused on battles and strategy, and the survivors, most of them, never spoke of it. Some couldn't, many took their own lives. You are probably thinking that this was then a different era, a different world. But in the 1990s, during the age of GPS and live CNN broadcasts, the ancient playbook was revived with modern, terrifying efficiency. In 1998, the International Criminal Tribunal convicted a Rwandan official named Jean-Paul Akeyu of genocide. But it wasn't for killing, it was for rape. It was the first time in human history that an international court ruled that systematic sexual violence can, in itself, constitute an act of genocide. During the 1994 Rwandan genocide, extremists didn't just use this weapon opportunistically, they organized it. Witnesses describe soldiers being told to break the will to resist. Between 250,000 and 500,000 women were violated in just 100 days. The children born from these assaults were given a specific name in their communities: children of hate. They were categorized. At the exact same time, in Bosnia, Serbian forces established what became known as rape camps. These weren't hidden facilities. They were organized camps, with fences, guards, and schedules, whose explicit purpose was the systematic impregnation of Muslim women. The military logic was a direct echo of Rome's use forced pregnancy to make it biologically impossible to hide what happened, and ensure the children become living reminders that would destroy family structures from within. The executions were also modernized. Commanders would broadcast on local radio, describing in explicit detail what they had done to specific women, and then execute them publicly. The bodies became billboards for terror. The radio ensured the message reached everyone. The pattern is undeniable. Rome used public violation to erase an enemy's lineage. Nanking used it to terrorize a city into submission. Berlin used it to demonstrate total conquest. And Bosnia and Rwanda industrialized it, broadcasting it to maximize psychological destruction. The reason women were publicly violated and executed during wars wasn't about sex or hatred. It wasn't about soldiers losing their humanity. It was about winning. Military strategists recognized that to truly defeat an enemy, you don't just destroy their armies. You destroy their will to exist, by erasing their identity and making their future impossible. And so, women's bodies became the final battlefield, because violating them sent a message more powerful than any gun or bomb could. Everything you are, and everything you could ever be, now belongs to us. We finally have international laws that name this for what it is, a weapon of war, a tool of genocide. But as long as we pretend it's just collateral damage, we are lying to ourselves, to history, and to the millions of victims. So, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to really think about it before you answer. After everything you've heard, do you believe systematic sexual violence in war should be prosecuted with the same severity as the use of chemical weapons? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.